Hello yarn tubers, welcome back to Dana's Wanderlust Crochet, and today we want to know, what do you make with Ice Yarn's favorite wool? How about a hat? And through the magic of YouTube, I now have a hat made out of the Ice Yarn's favorite wool. Let's see if I can get you guys the information on here, and then we'll talk about the hats. This is a 50% wool, 50% acrylic, 210 grams, or 210 meters, 100 grams. Okay, I didn't convert that to yards and ounces. It is considered a 5-weight yarn. But let me tell you, I started to work this hat with a 6.0 millimeter hook, and I ended up dropping down to a 5.5, which still made for, I mean, see that? Yeah, still made for kind of a loose, but it is squishy and stretchy, and it is, oh, the wool in this just feels wonderful. Now, do you see how dark this is? So I did not do the tutorial using this yarn. I instead am using this, which is Ice Yarn Saver 100, which is a 4-weight acrylic. Now, let me tell you about this hat. I didn't get the yards, like I said, but I did weigh this, and it is almost 0.04 ounces. And no, that was the Saver. The wool one, let's get this right, was 0.02.1 ounces, so less than 0.03 ounces for this hat. This one is more of a skull fitting, where the other one is longer with a little slouch in the back, and it's honestly, this one is thicker and chunkier than the 5-weight chunky yarn. I think it's just the halo. There's a little bit of a halo on this, so I think that's why it kind of puffed out and measures out in a wraps per inch tool to a 5-weight. But honestly, working with it, if you wanted to do this hat in one of the favorite wool skeins, look how much I have left, like a little under half. You could make 2 small hats, whatever. There's plenty here to make another smaller project. So the wool hat, like I said, I used a 5.5. You could easily have gone down to a 5.0. I found this color very hard to see, and that is why today's tutorial is going to be done in this Saver 100. And it's a pretty color. So what you're going to need if you're doing this hat is a 5.0 or a 5.5 millimeter hook. And if you're doing a 4.0 millimeter, something in a premium acrylic, I would go down to a 5 millimeter hook. You're going to need 2 to 3 stitch markers, scissors, and a needle. Okay, are we ready? I'm ready. Okay, this hat is actually done in from bottom to top rows. And I'm going to be demonstrating on my Yeti, using my Yeti as a head. Now, this means that we are going to do our foundation row like this. We're going to start at what would be considered the top of the head and work down here and back and forth. So let me demonstrate. That's all I'm doing today, is demonstrating with this yarn, and that's why I'm only using the Yeti as a model, because I don't have a styrofoam head. Okay, let's see what looks better, like this. Well, let's do it. I am going to do a chainless foundation, and starting at the top of the head, we're going to do chain 2 and insert your hook into the first chain, bring up a loop, yarn over, pull through 1, yarn over, and pull through 2. We're going to do 5 single crochet to start this. So insert your hook, bring up a loop, yarn over, pull through 1, yarn over and pull through 2. Let's do that till we have 5 of these. Insert your hook, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 1. This creates the chain that we're going to put our hook into. And it's something I like to kind of hang on to. So insert your hook, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 1, yarn over, pull through 2. So there's, you can see those 4 stitches there because the chainless foundation is done upside down. So bring up a loop, do the chain that you're going to go into, pull through both. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now we're going to switch to half double crochet. I'm going to yarn over first, insert my hook, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 1, yarn over, pull through all 3. And that is the chainless half double crochet for our foundation row. I'm going to insert my hook, but here's something that happens. This, and I've demonstrated this before. So here is the 2 loops that we're going to go under. But back here is one that's trying actually to pop up between and jump up over my hook. I always use my nail to make sure I only get under those 2 loops. And it's best to keep you want to keep your tension consistent, but not too firm, because you want to be able to get under these without fighting that other loop. So what I'm going to have you do is do this. If you want it to be longer, like this one is, this one I measured, let's come out. This one I measured like I would put the chain with the 5 single crochet at the very top of my head, and I kept going until I reached the bottom of my chin. Where with this one, which is much shorter, I measured starting at the top where the single crochet are, and I just measured down to my mouth, like the middle of my mouth. So keep doing your half double crochet chainless foundation until you can put this end with the single crochet at the top of your head, and the length is where you want an unfolded hat to land. And I will meet you back here after I get my length. Now I'll demonstrate how I measured. Let's imagine that this is my chin and the top of my cup is the top of my head. So I have just been measuring until from the top of my head I've reached the length that I want. And of course, the 5 single crochet, I just want to get this in our brains, that the 5 single crochet go to the top of the head. So here, I'm going to bring you back down here. Maybe a little closer. What do we think? Okay. So, and I went back and I looked at, I've got my 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 single crochet right there. And this is the 3rd loop, which is connected to this first half double crochet, and we will go over that right now, what the third loop is. So here is the front side of the work that I just did. And when you turn it over, you will see that up here, if you roll this really towards you, you will see the very tops of the stitches, the back loop, the front loop, and then when you roll it forward, that third loop is kind of sticking out. Now, if you're using that darker yarn, you're going to be using stitch markers to help you find this. And I'm going to show you how I did that. So, right here, I'm at my very last half double crochet. I'm going to turn my work. I'm only going to chain one, and then I'm going to yarn over. I'm going to identify the top of that stitch, and then there is the third loop. We're doing camel stitches, which is a half of a hag stitch, right? I'll link hag stitch in the description box. And then here we're moving on to the second chain, and I'm going under that third loop. That is the camel stitch, and I do about 3 of them. And then, because I want this line to kind of flatten out, when I go to turn this back and identify that very first half double crochet camel stitch, and then I'm going to roll it forward, and I'm going to notice there's a third loop, there's a third loop. This is the third loop, and it gets a little buried in the end of this row. I mark that. I just make my life easier. So, here we go. So I am going to camel stitch all the way back. Now, if you ever get lost, I mean, right there, that kind of looks like the top of a stitch, right? But if you roll this towards you, you'll see that the top of the stitch is facing the other direction. But as you do the camel stitch, this third stitch kind of sticks out to you. So I'm going to camel stitch all the way back. My stitch markers, of course, make a little noise, noisy little stitch markers. But they make me happy because I know I'm not going to have to fight finding that third loop. It really is sticking out. Whoops, stitch down, you guys. Okay, third loop. And this will make vertical lines and a very squishy, stretchy hat. Make sure you don't skip one. That one kind of was a little bit harder to see. But here you can see there's the third loop. And this is actually the front loop. You can see that third loop right there. So let's go all the way back. And I'm going to demonstrate this and to the top of the hat and then back to the bottom, and then I'll start again going towards the top of the hat, and then I'll turn you guys loose for a little while to work on this. Here we go. Third loop, camel stitch, stitch markers making noises, making me happy. Okay, you see I've got 1, 2, 3 stitches left. You kind of got to dig them out sometimes. Let's see. I got to count backwards. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have 2 stitches left. See, that stitch marker is great. So I'm going to go into the second to last here. And then, aha, Did I mismark that? I did, but having that stitch marker helps me know where to go, even if I mismarked it. So now I have half double crochets in the third loop, camel stitches all the way back. And what I have left here, I'm going to take this out. What I have left here, if you roll it this way, is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 single crochet. Now, this third loop can get buried. So what I do is I roll this back and I see where the top of the stitch is, and then there is the third loop. I mark it. I take the time to mark it every time, especially using that darker yarn. It was hard to see. So we're not just going to do regular single crochets here. We are going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 single crochets in the front loop only. And that's really the only loop showing. So I have 4 left here. See how that looks? Front loop only. 2, 3, 4, and 5. I'm going to turn my work. I'm going to identify the top of that last single crochet. Kind of keep an eye on it because it gets a little buried. Chain 1 and front loop only. Ho, 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 ho. There we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And right here I have that third loop ready, already marked. I'm going to do 1, 2, and 3 so that this line kind of flattens out. And I'm going to go back to that first half double crochet and turn it towards me, and you see that third loop kind of sticks up past these. This is a front loop, back loop, and that is the third loop. And that is where I put a stitch marker so that when I come back, there is no question as to where that third loop is. Top of the stitch, roll it back, and you can see the third loop there. There's one there, and there's one there. Now we're going on and completing the rest of this row in camel stitches. And this is what makes this my 4-weight hat so much squishier and chunkier actually than the 5-weight wool that I use. But the 5-weight wool did make a lovely feeling hat. Oh, it fit wonderfully. I mean, these are made to fit, right? There's no guessing involved. They are made to fit. And I love these kind of hats that are done vertically. I have done some back when I restarted crocheting again several years ago, that I did lengthways like this, but I did single crochet back loop only. And that was kind of a cool hat, but I wanted something better. And after watching several videos, looking at other people's patterns, I finally came up with this version, and I have not found anything exactly like this. But this won't be a published pattern or anything like that. Okay, so there is my last one. And if you need help, you can always roll this forward and quickly mark that third loop before. And that really helped me in that darker yarn. So if you are using darker yarn, That is a great trick. Now I chain 1 and I'm yarning over and going right into that marked stitch and doing the camel stitch. I'm going to take this out and do 3 of these. 1 or 2 and 3. Then I'm going to look at the tops of my stitches and go back to the first one and roll it forward, and there is my 3rd loop. See that? There's the top of my stitch, roll it forward, and there's the 3rd. And I mark it. Sometimes I split it, but I will know where to put my hook when I come back, and I won't split that yarn when I come back. So now, keep moving forward, and you can kind of hold this yarn so that, like, these are the tops of the stitches showing on the back, and when you roll them over, you can see that 3rd loop right there, and you can actually hold your yarn in a way so that that is what is at the very top of your work and is easier to find with your hook. So I want you to do this until you can measure around your head. We're going to come back a little bit. You're going to keep going like this until this can roll around your head with the single crochet at the top. I'll demonstrate that after I get it wide enough to go around my Yeti head. Another little way of identifying where that 3rd loop is, okay, here is, let me get the light over here. Hello. Get some light. Okay. So here is the top of your stitch, and of course there is your 3rd loop, but whenever you feel like it's buried, there's a stitch on either side of it. So I can go in between those 2 lower stitches, and here it is again. Now I will meet you when I'm ready to measure this around my Yeti mug / head model. Okay, we're going to pretend like this is big enough to go around a head. And how we measure that, so here's where I left off. Here's where the 5 single crochets are at the beginning, at the top of the hat. So that's where the top of your head goes. And let's say this is a nose. You measure it from the very top of your head around. And when the 2 sides can touch, then we're going to seam them together. Now, we're going to go ahead and pretend like this is big enough to go around some baby's head. And this is how you want to lay it out. This is the top of the hat. So we're going to turn it. And we're going to start right here. And we're going to fold. I'm going to consider this the inside of the hat. So we're going to fold that bottom part up. Take the stitch marker out of this last stitch. See the top of that stitch? Let's come in just a little bit. Okay, there's the top of that stitch. I'm going to chain 1 and I'm going to insert my hook into the back loop only. Now I'm going to grab this back part and see the bottom here. Here is the first stitch, and I'm going to go into the back loop of that stitch. It might be a little tight. Might have to come in kind of this way. There we go. Now we're going to slip stitch to join. I'll do it again here. And I'll do it again here. Just take it easy. Take your time just to get it right. Slip stitch. This right in there. And a slip stitch. And I'll meet you back up here at the top of the hat. Now, I'm getting close to the end here where my single crochet stitches are, and somehow, I mean, if I'm looking at the tops of these stitches, my count is that there's one more on this front panel than there is on the back. There are a couple ways you could do that. I mean, you could do two together here, or you could skip one. There are several ways you could do this. Like I could take this and then go back into the one that I just did, and that would make the count correct. But since it's only one that's extra, I'm just going to leave it, because this is all going to be cinched up and bunched in at the end. And I'll show you that in just a second. So I've got one left on the back side, and I've got two left on the front side. I'm just not going to fuss about it, because this is the top of the hat. Now, the first one I did in this blue, that one was, the count came out perfect on that. So I don't know what I did here. But the count on that, on the wool one, it was so hard to see those stitches. So I'm just, you know what, I'm going to go into the back of that last one and go into the same loop here. So it's just kind of cinched up real nice and tidied up. Now, I am going to finish this off. Sure I am. Hang on. So here I am going to finish this off. I'm going to leave a pretty good sized tail. And chain one and pull through. Yeah, my first blue one, the count came out perfect. This one is just one off. But that wool one, there's quite a pucker up here, because I was putting two together on one side or skipping. Anyway, it still turned out just fine. Now, when I say in the directions 2.5 times the width, I just go 1, 2, maybe a half, and I cut it. And I'm going to start right here on this side, and I'm just going to weave it in and out the very edge of this piece. Of course, I can use my good clover hook for this. See if I can get this threaded. Here we go. Here we go. So get your yarn threaded. And I'm just going to go in, like I'm going to look at, there's a line here. That's where my seam was. There's the front loop. There's the space. There's the front loop. I'm not going to get too picky. I'm going to kind of go around behind the lines. I'm not going to, whoop, that came all the way through, Dana. So you can just leave it, you know, loose as you go around, or I like to take it with this last one and tie it. Ooh, whoa, 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 that came through too much. And just leave enough that I can still weave this in at the end, but that'll anchor that. And just start, I kind of like to go around these thicker areas. And I don't want to get too far down here. I want to stay right up here in this edge, because I don't want too much of a bulky knot at the top. So here we go around. Such a cute hat. It's really cute in this size. So I just kind of go around the ends of those stitches where that front post, where the front post single crochets are. I go over that and under this. Over that and under this. And under. Then I'm going to go under again. And then out right here is where we started. And I even like to come in just a little bit here, just to finish it off. Now this, like I said before, this is the inside of your hat. You will be turning it the other way to show the outside. Now, I've got all this cinched up really nice right here, and I'm just going to do a couple of crossways wherever I think it needs to be cinched up at least 3 times. Mikey always says 3 directions. I think I need to bring this one over to there. There. And that is really nice. I'm going to bring it back over to the other side so that I'm actually going to tie some knots here. Okay. So there's that. It's never all that pretty on the inside. But I'm going to take this and the next one over. And just tie it off. And then, yes, I am going to weave in those ends. I am going to weave these in and trim them off. And then I'll come back and show you how it looks all finished. Okay, so I really love this hat. It is done. It is done. They're all done. Isn't this cute? And I like this wool hat. It wasn't that easy to make because it was so hard to see, even with my really bright light up here. And without that light, I could not have made it at all. But I really like this hat. So that is favorite wool from Ice Yarns. And this is Saver 100 from Ice Yarns. This one. What do you guys think? Tell me in the comments. Let me know if you make any. Okay? Okay, I love you guys. Bye.